victory. Victory in the treetops. Victory for Snortius and Tree Climber. The beasts were slain, and Tree Climber was finally rewarded for his several weeks of loyal service with his own domain. The Snot Scouts spent the morning skinning the dead creatures, wearing the pelts across their shoulders as they began calling themselves Tree Climbers' Tree Dogs. But what does one more victory mean to one such as Snortius, who has had so many victories before? The defeat of the wolf creatures only whetted Snortius's appetite for victory, for there were greater enemies on the horizon. He left Tom and Jerry behind with their snotlings, as Snortius the Uncrumpable took one of the remaining rafts and continued down the great river to Megahumiopolis. He knew the Humies would return one day in their great trucks. The old Humie said so, after all, and Snortius wanted to be there when they returned. He wanted to face the great enemy again, with their flash gubbins, and mostly he just wanted their flash gubbins. All of it made for such good scrap. Snortius floated down the great river with his 3 snotlings in tow. Snore Sleeper, Soggy, and Spelunk, who were all curled up around the burner that Soggy and Snore Sleeper normally wielded in battle. Spelunk was a snot who had fallen into the water earlier on the journey, and had to be pulled out from the river before being eaten by the monsters by Snortius. The great snot boss let them sleep as he punted the raft along, avoiding the rocks in the great river. As Snortius paddled, he looked to the far side of the bank, into the domain of the blood apes, and he was reminded of his greatest defeat, when the powerful creatures lifted him from the ground and nearly broke him before he was able to escape with his remaining snots. But he was big now, strong and powerful. He longed for revenge on the apes, but he resisted this primal urge. He had other things to take care of. Between the Humies and the apes, the Humies had better loot. But maybe there would be a time for Snortius to take his revenge. The Greenskins continued their journey to Megahumiopolis, arriving in the middle of the night. Only the moonlight illuminated their surroundings as the Greenskins pulled the raft to shore. Or more accurately, Snortius pulled the raft ashore. The Snots were of little use when it came to matters of brute force. Snortius and his crew moved to the entrance of Megahumiopolis. The gate to the great city was now guarded by none other than Stinky and his snotlings.
"Oh, hello there. I thought you might have been a Yumi."
"You thought there might have been a Yumi wandering around in the middle of the night without a truck?"
I don't know, maybe. Yumi's is really stupid. Oh, you're really big right now."
"That's true. Yumis are really stupid. Yeah, and I'm really big. All right, let me in." With that, Snortius entered the great city. Stinky remained behind by the gate in order to stand watch as one of his snots guided the snot boss into the town hall, which had been converted into a boss hut. The Humies were also locked in this structure. The Greenskins planned to put them to work, but there simply weren't enough grots, snots, and orcs to assure they would not escape. Until the population of Megahumiopolis grew a little more, the 3 captives were kept under lock and key. The snot boss sighed as Snortius found one of the big, flat, soft things that the Humies had in their huts. He laid down and tried to get some rest. It was kind of like sleeping in a hole in the ground, or on a pile of dead leaves, or maybe on the pelt of an equally dead monster. In any case, it was comfortable. Snottius gave his nose a final pick for the night and fell into a deep sleep, and dreamed of future conquests. In the morning, Snottius awoke to a minor scuffle outside of his window. Apparently, Stinky had been reapplying his lucky blue paint and managed to get himself and DeBrain spattered with the stuff. DeBrain seemed annoyed. "Stinky, you have never ceased to disappoint me." Snottius climbed out of bed and approached the two. "Oi, Brain, what's been going on in this place? You got those trucks up and running yet?"
"Boss, you look like you've become quite large. I didn't believe it at first. I thought Stinky had been into the fermented squig paste again. Well, I have been attempting to repair the trucks that had been smashed to pieces in the great battle. But with so few hands, they're not ready to run yet. But don't you worry, boss. We'll get them fixed up right and proper."
Snottius nodded his great head and picked his nose in thought. He needed to get these boys on task. Lots of work needed to be done if they were going to turn all the Humy scrap they had into proper looted gubbins. And they needed to do it before the Humies returned. "Brain, I need you working on making stick bombs."
"Stick bombs? I thought you wanted me to fix up the truck."
"No, I want the Furious working on the trucks."
The Furious nodded emphatically.
"Family!" "Stinky, I want you to set a trap for the Humy truck that's coming. I want you to dig a hole, and when the truck comes, it falls in the hole and gets stuck. We kill the Humies that's inside and nick the truck. Simple."
Okay, dig a hole, truck falls in, kill Humies, nick truck. It sounds complicated, but okay.
"And what are you going to do, boss?"
"I'm gonna make myself some armor."
"Armor? Out of what, boss?"
Snottius stroked his chin as he looked over the two wrecked tractors and wrecked big truck. The tractor that DeFast drove had been completely smashed to pieces. The other tractor was smashed up but fixable, and the Humy truck was almost in working condition. "I'm gonna make some armor out of the fragged up small Humy truck." Snottius had never made armor before. Snottius had never been a craftsnot. He'd always been a leader. But the building snots and grots made things look pretty easy. How hard could it really be? The snot boss grabbed some blunt tools and began hammering away at the twisted metal. If it was armor, it needed to be shaped to fit him. So Snottius simply folded it, and hammered it, and folded it again, and smashed it again, and soon enough, after a few hours of work, Snottius had a flash suit of armor fashioned from the scrap metal of the destroyed tractor. The snot boss looked at his creation, shrugged, and slipped it on. It fit him like a glove. And on the chest piece it bore a mighty skull on front. Snottius's own skull. Though without his ears or his nose, it pretty much looked like a normal orc skull. But Snottius knew that it was his, and his alone. The other grots made good progress on their own projects. DeBrain made quite a number of simple scrap bombs. They were actually so easy to make that he was able to spend some time working on his own secret project where he intended to bring the ancient weapon of Snotopia into the modern age. Snot fire shotgun shells. He managed to make a few prototypes by the time the sun was beginning to set. The Furious, on the other hand, was able to finish his work on the big Hume truck and got it into working condition. Now, all that was left to do was repair the tractor. Fortunately for the Furious, the Hume truck was already painted a bright, angry red color, while the tractor was painted a duller orange. Snotius picked his nose in approval as he looked over the day's work. The Brain walked up behind the Snot Boss and offered him a strange brown paper package that had been roughly taped and glued together with whatever things the Brain could find.
A little something for you, boss. A proper zappy chopper.
Snotius unwrapped the gift to see a mighty chain chopper. The Brain had simply taken a simple Hume tool, given it a proper swingy grip, and hooked it up to a large electrical battery.
Yes, you hit him with this, and it's choppy and zappy.
Snotius smiled and nodded his head in approval. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but he suddenly stopped and turned his head, glancing from side to side. "Hey, where's Stinky? Digging a hole shouldn't take him this long. Why ain't he back yet?" Unbeknownst to Snotius, Stinky had had a bit of an accident when he tripped and stumbled into the very trap he had been digging to ensnare the Humies. As the sun began to set and the nocturnal creatures of the forest began to stir, Stinky was left alone in the pit.
Hello? Anyone? Boss? I fell into the hole. Boss?
As the boys in Mega Humeopolis wondered what happened to Stinky, the sound of the grot's cries caught the attention of some very large, very hairy predators that began to draw near the edge of the pit where the trapped grot languished, hoping beyond hope that he might yet be rescued.
No man do they call me. My mother and my father, and all my comrades as well. Thank you all for listening to the latest episode of Growing the Tribe. If you enjoyed what you heard, please leave a like and a comment so that you too might pick up a random piece of scrap and turn it into a masterpiece without even knowing what you're doing. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so in order to hear more stories about accidentally falling into holes. And if you would like to support me, you can click on the links below that will take you to my PayPal, my Patreon, and my Teespring. And if you have absolutely no idea what's going on, you can click on the Growing the Tribe playlist, which should be appearing on screen right now. Thank you all once again for listening. No Man out.